Hey everybody, Heather here. Today we're going to be working on our April Copic coloring card kit, and this month's kit is this cute Humphrey stamp called Best Friends. And the little stamp set comes with the little elephants, 2 sentiment sayings, and 2 accessory stamps, this cute little bear and the cute little purse that you can add on. The stamp set is unmounted on gray rubber, but I've included the easy mount, so when you get it you can just mount it and stamp your image and get started. So I've already stamped my image on Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So let's get started. If you haven't picked up your April kit yet, you can find that over at HeathersHobbieHaven.com, and I'll put a link down at the bottom there. And so we're going to start by coloring our elephants, and for that I'm going to use T's today, which is toner gray. I'm going to use T2, T1, and T0. I'm going to start with T2. I'm going to start where I want it to be the darkest, so I'm going to shade my elephant's arm. So her little arm, she's got an arm right here, and then it's going to cast a little bit of shadow down here on this arm, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go along, and then I'm going to add T1, and I go about halfway into where I started stamping or started coloring with my T2, and just flick a little bit on top of that. It kind of pulls the line you've already got sitting there away from it and softens your edge a little bit. And then I'm going to fill it in with T0. And this time I'm going to go from the white area, and I'm going to brush back towards the T2. And that kind of pushes the color backwards and blends it all at the same time. So then there's hardly any, there's no line at all left anymore. And I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of the dark spaces. So I'm going to start with T2. And this elephant's going to cast a little bit of her face, will cast a little bit of shadow onto her arm. And then she's going to have a shadow over here with this bow and along the side of her face, and down her trunk. And then right here where it looks like her head is tipped down, I'm going to give it a little bit of a shadow right there. And that was T2. And then I'm going to add T1. Zoom in a little bit there for you. Okay, so let's add T1. So we'll start on the T2 and brush it out just a little bit. And my pin's just barely touching the paper. And again, we're going to go around over here. And I'm going to go around this bow because the bow will cast a shadow too. And go down along my T2. And then I'm going to fill it in with T0. So again, I'm going to take start up here in the white space, and I'm just going to pull it back towards the dark shaded area. And same for this side. And she looks pretty good. I don't want to add too much color because I want her to be a light gray, but you can go back in and you could do it all over again. Start with your T2 and go back and add some more shading in there, but I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go over here and do my other elephant. And she's got kind of a second ear here, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my T2 over here. Add a little bit here. Here, her face, at the bottom of her face will have some. Down along her trunk. Then we'll get her arm over here too. And her shirt will cast a shadow. And then we're going to add T1. Again, I start in where I already laid down my color so I can pull a little bit of that away and soften my edge. And then I'm going to fill it in with T0. Be a little bit careful going around my little flower here. I didn't color the flowers, I just put a little bead on top of them and left them white. Okay, she does have, on this second elephant right here, she has a little space right here where her shoe is. I'm going to go ahead and color that. I'm not going to give her socks. I'm just going to say that that is her skin. And I'm going to put T2 on here. And then I'm going to fill it in with T1. So there you have both your elephants colored. They look pretty good. I'm going to start with Y19. I'm going to add where I want it to be the darkest. Okay, so I'm going to start where I want it to be the darkest. So she's going to cast a little bit of a shadow from her face and her ear here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Clear it down over here. And then she's also going to cast a shadow over here on her sleeve from her ear. And then right here on her dress, she's already got some cute shadow lines for us, so I'm going to go ahead and just use those. And then I'm going to do the bottom next. So I'm going to do these two right now while it's wet. And I'm going to go Y18. And again, I'm just going to go just a little bit onto my Y19. I'm going to add Y18. And I'm just barely tapping the paper just a little bit to soften my line right there. Maybe get a little bit underneath where it's going to be her dress curls up there. And then we're going to add Y15. And then we'll finish that area up with Y13. And that really gives it some yellow color. Okay, I'm going to let that dry now. Maybe come back and add some more, but we're going to start down here on her skirt. And for her skirt, I'm going to use Y19 to start, and I'm going to go where I want it to be the darkest. So I'm going to get all these cute lines she's already got set there for me, and just brush down. And I'm not too concerned about maybe getting a little bit on the stems of the flowers down here, because I'm going to cover that up with green. So that was Y19, and then I'm going to add Y18. Try not to get too much on my flower, because remember I'm going to leave those white. And then we're going to go Y15. And then Y13. And this time I'm going to flick upwards. And this one's pretty light, so it adds quite a bit of yellow there. So I'm going to kind of flick up further than I normally would, because I want to add a little bit more of this light tone in there. And then again, you're going to be careful down here at the bottom, trying not to get too much on your flowers. But you can always erase it if you get some on there with your colorless blender. Brush down from this way. Soften that line a little bit. Okay, Now I'm going to go up, and I'm going to start up here at the top because I want this to be a little bit darker up here on her bodice of her dress. So I'm going to have my Y19, and I'm going to go add just a little bit more, maybe up here by her sleeve too. Oh, we want to get the underskirt of her dress, so I'm going to add some of that right here. And then we'll go Y18. Y15. And then I'm going to go over it lightly with Y13. Alright, that looks pretty good. So let's go do her purse too, because it's the same exact colors. And I'm going to add color down here at the bottom of her purse. She's got a little bow right there, so I'm going to go around that. And then we'll add Y18. And again, I start brushing just a little bit onto the color I just laid down. And that'll soften your line you've got there. And then we'll do Y15. That purse does have some flowers, a bow, and she's got the little handle right here, so I tried not to color that too much. I did get a little bit on there, but it's going to be red, so it should be fine. We'll just cover it up with that. So they're looking pretty good so far. So I started with my R20, and I just gave it a little bit in here towards the top. And then I blended it with R30. So again, I start where I have my color already laid down. Just very lightly blend that out. And you can always go back and add more, or if you wanted to do her ear, if you wanted her ear to curve down a little bit more, you could come in with your ear color here and fix that just a little bit. It looks like it's more rounded when you go around. Okay, so let's go down here and work on the girl's socks that we have here. So we're going to start with BV1, and I'm going to do every other stripe. And I want it to be shadowed on the outsides of the legs, and then have it more light here in the center top part. So I'm going to start by just giving a little bit of my BV01 on the outside. Just pick a stripe you want to start with, and then I'm going to skip a stripe, and then skip another stripe. And then she's got some stripes back here in the back, so I'm going to get those. And she's got some stripes here in the front, so again we're going to get those. And some of them are smaller than the others, so you're going to not use all the colors. You're going to just put a little bit on, and when you run out of space you'll just skip the rest. Okay, and then I'm going to put on BV00. And again, I start where I already started my color. See, like this little stripe right here, it's already used up all of its space, so it's not going to get any more of the colors that we have. But now we're going to go to BV000. And then I'm going to fill it in with BV000. Just these two that had extra space. Oh, sorry, 3. There's one right here. And that's all I did for her socks. So except for the alternate stripe, I used T0 to just add a little bit of shading right on the edges. Well, this one here underneath of her dress, we're going to color all the way in. But on this one, I just gave it a little bit on each side. And then I just left it white. That gave it just a little bit of shading right in there. I also use this for her shoe too, so we're going to go ahead and color her shoe while we're doing the dress. So I'm going to start with BG13, and she has a little bit of her collar that shows right up here underneath of her trunk. And I'm just going to color that in with the BG13 just like that. And then I'm going to add where I want to put my shadows. And I'm not going to worry about these dots. I'm going to go back later and remove the color with the colorless blender. Or I could go in and leave them green and just put my jelly roll pen that I used on there. But I'm not going to be too concerned if I color over them. Okay, so it's going to be darkest right next to this girl's, where the girl's casting a shadow on her. Clear down to the bottom here. And then she's got some great little stripes that are already on here. I'm just going to kind of give those a little swipe. Just like that. And then I'm going to go in with BG11. And again, I'm going to start where I already put my color down. So I want to just pick up a little bit of that color and brush it down with this one. Same for this side. Just going to go over and make my lines a little bit bigger. And again, I didn't worry about the dots. We can fix those later, or they look great green too. Okay, and then we're going to go with BG10. I'm going to brush up this time. That way I don't get too crazy and go out of the lines. And then we'll come down from the top. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. While that's drying, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to work on her shoe and for her underskirt. So I've gone back to BG13. And I want it to be dark on this side of her shoe. And along the sole. And then we're going to go to BG11. And then we'll fill it in with BG10. I'm going to go up here and add a little bit more color to her dress. So I'm going to start again with BG13. And I'm just going to add a little bit more, some more dark color on here. On BG11. And it just depends on how dark you want your dress to be. If you want it to be super light, like I had it before, go ahead and just leave it. It's totally up to you. I just want to add a little bit more this time than I did the first time around and give it a little bit more shading on there. Alright, sorry about that. Evidently the UPS man showed up with the Echo Park paper and the dogs were throwing a fit. So let's go with BG10. And I'm just going to brush up and lighten my little bit of a line I've got still showing right here at the bottom. And that looks pretty good. Okay, and she also has some cute little hair bows up here, so we're going to color those. So I'm going to start with BG13 and just add a little bit of shadows where I want it to be darkest. So I want my bows to be darkest at the bottom. And she does have some dots there, but remember, you can just color over those. Don't be too stressed out if you get some color on them and erase it later with the colorless blender. I'm not too stressed over that. I did try not to get any on there, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then we're going to go to BG11. Just soften her line. And then we'll add BG10.